introduction to this video. So recently, Kanye West just announced that he's running for president. Is this a serious run? I do not believe so at all. I think this is just a publicity stunt. Kanye West, he just released a new single with Travis Scott a couple weeks ago, and he's perhaps getting ready to release another album. We all know that Kanye West is crazy right now. That's besides the point. There was a time when Kanye West, when he was in his prime, I should say, in that early 2000 range, in those early 2000s, when he was releasing all his albums, all his multiple hit albums, there was a point in time to where I could have said, yes, Kanye West can definitely run for president and have a legit shot at winning. Now, just merely publicity. He hasn't even did a filing with the FEC yet, the Federal Election Commission. So don't look too heavily off into him running presidency. Just don't. His family is saying that he's having another mental breakdown or something of that sort. But he just had his first campaign rally in South Carolina. Why, I really do not know, because primary season is now over for both parties. And then in his interview, in one of his interviews, he said that he was going to be running under, I think he said, the birthday cake party or some shit like that, which just shows you the seriousness in which he's taken this whole entire ordeal. Not very serious at all. Thing is, if Kanye West was actually serious, like I said, had he been running earlier in his career when he was actually in his prime, or if he was still cognitively there right now as I'm speaking, he would have a legit shot. We saw Michael Bloomberg enter the presidential race for the Democrats extremely late, and he came in fourth place, rising above lots of formidable, valuable candidates. So he was able to stifle votes, millions of votes away from the rest of the candidates, and he did this knowing he wasn't going to win, but he just wanted to take a shot at it just to see how he would affect the polls. Now just take that for Kanye West or someone else that's within his position or stature, someone who just wants to run on a populist message, run on a message that can actually win on being anti-establishment, going against the status quo, going against the media industrial complex, the military industrial complex, all these complexes, including the deep state itself, that has kept America within the elite and powerful grip. But here goes a clip from his rally yesterday.
And everyone, I've never got next to someone who didn't become more prosperous because of it. George Soros, I know, knows how to make homes in one day. Well, we're doing the same thing. We're making homeless shelters. So I look on that. Mark Zuckerberg would like to bring the internet into Africa. Okay, well, let's beat Mark Zuckerberg, because when you went to Africa, they said no. China is buying land in Africa. Okay, well, my deal with Adidas is no longer that I get a 15% royalty. I'm giving them the 15% royalty. Wait a second. I don't want to hear. I will let you know when I'm finished with my thoughts. And I would prefer 10. I like multiples of 20, and I'm giving them a 15% royalty. And because of their 15% royalty, it made me into a billionaire, which could make me, off of this speech alone, at zero tomorrow. But when God calls Moses, he has to leave his comfy job, working for the Egyptians, and free the people. And the freedom does not come from an election. The freedom comes from you not loading up pornography. The freedom comes from you not taking the Percocet. The freedom comes from you not downing your brother and your sister. The freedom comes from you putting that gun down and not shooting people at the gas station. It has nothing to do with this election. It only has to do with God and God's people. He said, come on. My mom saved my life. My dad wanted to abort me. My mom saved my life. There would have been no Kanye West because my dad was too busy. We love you, Kanye.
nothing serious at all. It was just merely propaganda. Like I said, he's just not gonna. It's nothing's gonna happen with this. Like, he hasn't been filed for individual states to appear on the ballots. That's just how insignificant this presidential run is. But there was a poll conducted though the other day, and it did show that he was at 3%, polling at 3%. Now, say Kanye had jumped into this when things had just started to get going, he could have made this race a little interesting. And if he was still there in terms of his vigilance, this race could have maybe turned out to be something. So my prediction is you're going to see more people like him rise up with a real populist incentive to try to help and give to the people who really actually are there, though, that's the thing, and people who actually want to make a difference, like Donald Trump did. The only difference is Donald Trump is a fake populist, as I've always argued here on the show. The presidential race is really starting to turn into a landslide in terms of landslide proportions for Joe Biden. There's just no other way to put this. There's now voting by mail in most of the states that are the most vital to Donald Trump's victory. Rust Belt swing states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, all these states have mail-in voting. But yet, the Trump campaign, the Trump people think that they can turn this election around and win, but the only way he can do that, and the only way that he knows he can do that, is suppressing the vote by taking away voting by mail. Which is why voting by mail was here in Texas. I would say Texas is going to go for the Democrats. This is how the Democratic Party is going to win the presidential election. What they're going to do is they're going to replicate what they did to win the U.S. House. 18 midterms to retake the House. They're going to use that same map and apply it to a presidential map, because in presidential years you get a higher turnout. So you apply that same map to a presidential map with increased turnout because it's a presidential election, and with most of these states voting by mail, especially within the Rust Belt and other states like Florida, the biggest swing state right now other than Texas, you do that and you have landslide proportion victories for the Democrats going all up and down the ballot. My friends on the right, this is what they're failing to realize and understand. There's more Democrats in the country. There was another poll just conducted on your party affiliation. Most people in our country view themselves as a Democrat. That's always been a fact. So when they come out to vote and when they re-replicate what they did in the 2018 midterm elections and apply that to a general election map, Joe Biden is not only going to win, but the Democrats are going to perhaps take back the United States Senate. Yeah, people like Susan Collins up for re-election in Maine. How she's even there, I do not know. Cory Gardner in Colorado, where this is legal, but he's against it. So the Democrats are sitting in a great position as of right now. So until I see numbers that point otherwise to Trump, like I said, somehow flipping Democratic voters to Republican voters, or somehow increasing the Republican vote in the states that are most crucial, I just can't see him winning. Because, like I keep saying, they have the map already in terms of how to win in these statewide elections in multiple states, because of Democratic governors that have been elected. Follow those same maps in the midterm maps, you're gonna win. Like I said, those elite suburbanites, people who live in the exurbs of the country, I should say, bring those same people out. Bring them out, and Joe Biden will win. This is why we call him Republican light. Look at who he's appealing to the most. He doesn't in particularly need me. He doesn't need me at all, which is why I keep saying I'm not going to vote. So if he doesn't need me, why would I come out to vote? He's Republican light. So he's going to appeal to Republicans that aren't that much comfortable with Donald Trump, or people who are conservative, but they call themselves a Democrat, maybe per se because of the times and where the political wind is blowing. It's all just a technocratic crony game. You just have to look at it like this. If the Republican issues were more popular than Democratic issues, then there would be more Republicans in this country than there are Democrats. But the reason why most of these elites are Democrats are because the Democratic issues are more popular, some of them, and yet on other issues, a lot of these folks are conservative. Barack Obama was a fiscal conservative Democrat. Most people don't even know that. So now America is starting to enter fascist authoritarian territory. You have unmarked vehicles arriving in Portland, Oregon, and various other parts of the United States like Florida. They're arriving in minivans, and these are federal agents that Donald Trump has sent to Portland, Oregon, simply to just prop up his type of propaganda that he wants to see and that he wants to put into campaign media and to recycle amongst the media industrial complex to show that he's the law and order president. Not only is he the law and order president, but he's the president that's going to keep your streets safe. But the thing is, Portland, Oregon was already safe.
Before the federal troops got here, violence was way down, vandalism was way down. Our local and state law enforcement officials had contained the situation. The energy was coming out of the demonstrations. We had hoped they would end within a matter of days. And what happened instead is the federal troops came in, they used their unconstitutional tactics, they injured nonviolent demonstrators, and the whole thing blew up again like a powder keg. So I completely disagree with them. The reason we want those federal troops out of our city is they are making the situation much more dangerous. I'm worried that one of our residents or one of our local or state law enforcement officers is going to get killed because of the tactics that they're currently engaged in.
They attempted initially when the first Chaz was propped up and put into play in Seattle. Oregon was at the same time trying to do the same thing, but they failed because the police there acted. This is literally just all for propaganda and politics. He's sending them there for no reason, and now they're driving around on different blocks of the community, just picking up different people, arresting different people that are just protesting.
Use your words. What are you doing? Use your words. What are you doing?
I haven't done anything wrong.
Use your words. What is going on?
We need to know.
Who are you?
Why are you taking
NLG will get you out. What's your name? Tell us your name.
What's your name?
Okay, you're fine. We'll get you out.
Bro, what? Alright,
We got you, friend.
we got you. NLG.
You just violated their rights.
Oh. Kidnapping people.
You just violated their rights.
Thanks for keeping them. No.
How are we supposed to know who you are? How are we supposed to know you're not kidnapping us and you're civilians kidnapping us?
So this is what I want to say to my friends on the right, all my folks on the right. Say this was happening to you. Say you were protesting for the way you feel and what you feel like should happen in terms of American politics in our country. We saw it already. Most of the people that were protesting at the Michigan Capitol, most of them were Trump supporters. Most of them did not want to see things closed down, did not want to see their state closed down, which is why they were protesting so heavily. And they were at those rallies with a lot of machine guns, and a lot of them had weapons. Just imagine if you were protesting doing the same thing exactly as these folks were. Imagine these same federal agents coming through your neighborhoods and swooping you up.
This is Buffalo 30 south of Southwest Main Street is closed. You must remain on the sidewalk on the north side of Stanley. Street or come south of Stanley, you will be arrested and subject to force. Stay to the north, stay back.
Coming through your towns and cities, swooping you up just because you're protesting, feeling the way that you feel about your politics, swooping you up. How would you feel? You see, America is a very selfish country. You see, until something exactly affects you, you don't really care, and it's not abiding to you or what you want to see. So until it affects you, that's the only time that you really ever care or give a damn. All I can say is this is going to lead to nothing but madness. Like I say, we already have black militias and militias all across the whole entire country rising up. People are arming themselves faster than at any other point in time in history. That's by no mistake. There's a distrust, a disaffection for the government on both sides, left and right, in terms of a populist sense. So when you have these type of folks going around, rounding up folks, silencing them because of their politics merely alone, when you have that happening, it's only going to lead to anarchy and rebellions that are going to spark up. You're going to see more Chazes and Chops, and more left and right wing people and militias rising up to protect them and their race and their people as a whole and their neighborhoods. The Donald is focused on that while COVID is rising up daily, rising up right now as I speak, massively, expeditiously, to put it lightly. Rising, and he's trying to just simply forget about it. He doesn't want to even acknowledge it. Election night, when he's losing, sitting there in the Oval Office watching himself lose, Blame it on multiple things. He can blame it on the cultural civil wars that he's heavily investing himself into right now. He can blame it on COVID and his inaction to handle this. Could have been handled very easily had he actually had real health care put in law right now, but he doesn't. He's failing to act on it just as a whole. He just thinks it's gonna disappear, and he even said in an interview he believes he's just gonna wake up one day and it's gone. That's what the President of the United States said. Deaths are at wartime numbers. More people have died than the people died in the Vietnam War, than the soldiers that were killed in the Vietnam War. More people have died from COVID. But he says he's just gonna wake up one day and it's just gonna disappear. Race. Ultimately race. We all know that he's a racist. He's a vicious racist. And yet he wonders why Black people and Latinos will never support him in a majority that he would like to see, which is why states like Arizona are contentious, not only contentious, but show Joe Biden with a lead. Show him with a lead in Texas and Florida, North Carolina. See, these are some of the things that I have to see actually on election day, and why I can understand some of the Trump people, why they say, whoa, 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 hold your horses here. But at the same time, when turnout increases, you have to look at the evidence truly for what it is. And when that voter turnout increases, who are the people that are coming out? Well, if they're Democrats, that's the way the election is gonna go. I mean, it's just simple math. So the cultural civil wars, because he's diving all the way into that, not wanting to remove Confederate flags or Confederate monuments from different military bases, because he doesn't want to do that, and because of his inaction and disaffection for minorities and Black people as a whole, he is tanking in regards to all of that. And his focus on the cultural civil war issues are a direct reason for that. So the longer he focuses on that, the more his poll numbers, his disapproval rating will continue to tank. His disapproval is now past Hillary Clinton's. Donald Trump's disapproval rating is in the 60s. This is George H.W. Bush territory and Jimmy Carter territory. But yet, people keep saying everything's okay. Now, he just demoted his campaign manager, Brad Parscale, to deputy campaign manager. Alrighty. All that would be the reason why Donald Trump loses. But what we have to do is ensure and continue to make sure that we're propping up progressive candidates and we're going for progressive populist people that are running for office, because eventually, when 2022 rolls around, or 2024 perhaps, we're looking at the potential to have a progressive populist majority in our country, because the fight is really going to turn into a fight against the neoliberal Democrats that are going to be in control of everything, because of how much of the cultural and geographical shifts are leaning in the Democrats' direction. So because of that very fact, the Democrats will solidify their majority in the United States. So then the fight will turn into taking these upper class Democratic elitist districts, take those districts away and the exurbs away. We're gonna have a majority in this country. Most of the public agrees and believes us, but because the Democrats have won so many of these exurbs and the suburbanites, they're gonna have their way just for a little bit longer. The fight will turn into the progressive populists going against the globalist, elitist, neoliberal Democratic class. That's what the fight will turn into.